ignoring Nikki Cross just as much as Johnny Gargano did. This is Whacked Out Wrestling. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special makeup episode of Whacked Out Wrestling. I am Thomas S.K. Green. With me, as always, is John Roche, and we have a special guest in Andrew McHale this week.
Yeah, I'm back. Look, here's the backstory behind this. Yesterday, they added this to Hidden Gems. Today, after I got home from work, I looked up SK Green on Skype, and I said, we have to do a viewing of this.
Yes. This is basically one of the coolest and weirdest things they had. A pilot for the AWA making a home video of the infamous Team Challenge series. And some bare minimums for people who don't remember this series. In the dying days of the AWA had tried to make a unique series to try and counter the fact that wrestlers were being hemorrhaged by day in and day out for them. They were losing audience, and they had no money left. So they built a new, unique Team Challenge series where every wrestler in the company was put into 3 teams. Team Baron Von Raschke, Team Sergeant Slaughter, and Team Larry Zbyszko. This way they'd have a way to explain away the fact that if someone left the company, it didn't matter because you still had those 3 wrestlers. Meanwhile, you also had them move a lot of their shows into empty arenas to hide the fact that no one wanted to go, and which was sold as there was actually too much interference. They wanted to try and eliminate the interference. One thing to keep in mind for this that has some things, a lot of people have given credit to the fact that allegedly Eric Bischoff was the person who started the idea for the Team Challenge series when he was working with the AWA as an announcer. But to his credit, Bischoff himself has denied the fact that he was involved with the Team Challenge series, citing the fact that Vern Gagne was very serious about kayfabe and would never let an announcer in on the booking meetings, which actually makes perfect sense if you know how Vern Gagne was.
Yeah, so what you're about to see here was Volume 1. This is what we're going into. It just dropped on the W Network as a hidden gem. It's from October of 1989, it looks like. So this is really in sort of the dying days of the AWA. And this is sad for people who are fans of longtime pro wrestling. I know that Taker's Minion and Biff Kensington would be waxing so poetic about the glories of the AWA. But by this point, it seemed like every world title change was because their hand was forced from either the WWF or the NWA stealing someone.
As opposed to in the glory days of the AWA, where it was forced by this international promotion really wanted the face of their industry to be a world champion, so they gave them a world title reign to help them out. So looking in your direction, Otto Bonds and Jumbo Tsuruta.
Exactly.
Then there was the time when they wanted to try their hand at an undisputed championship with Jerry Lawler being the AWA champ, but never defending the title in AWA territory.
Well, that one actually is an interesting story behind it, which is that at the time, this was all set up by a Super Clash, which was a cross-promotional show with the AWA, the USWA, and World Class. All of them appeared on the show, and the main event was a title unification match between AWA/USWA champion Jerry Lawler and world-class champion Kerry Von Erich. And by the way, if you ever get a chance to find that match, do so, because it's actually a really good match. The ending is contrived as all hell, but it is a very good match. The problem being that the show was promoted under the AWA banner with the idea that the USWA and world-class would get a piece of the gate, not really 1/3, but enough for contributing their players, even though the AWA did all of the promotion. They didn't. And as you can imagine, this led to a lot of trust issues, and people started fleeing the AWA even more than before.
Yes. I'm not saying that the AWA completely fucked over everybody who was working with them, but even Buck Zumhoff didn't fuck people like this AWA did.
Even Jerry Lawler didn't fuck people like the way the AWA did.
Yeah, but at least with Jerry Lawler, you thought that he was going to fuck you over. That was just part of the Jerry Lawler experience. So
Anyhow.
Yeah, it wound up being a .8 Muda match. So.
Oh yeah, Kerry tapped an order. I should warn you, Kerry Von Erich bleeds like crazy in that match. Just as a warning for anybody who's looking it up.
Yeah, but that's also viable in this one to help it because Jerry Lawler's always a good person to give bleeding, and Kerry Von Erich always has that. The really pretty boys just bleed so beautifully when they're doing a blade job. So that's a good benefit for a Kerry Von Erich there.
I will say this, by the way. One what if I would love to see. If Kerry Von Erich puts the gun down and turns himself in, he is basically a local hero in Dallas. So the sentence for possession would probably not be that long. Let's say it's 3 to 5 years. That tends to be what everyone quotes for a random sentence. He serves the maximum. He cleans up. He gets ready, and he's released in approximately summer of '98 to spring of 1999, being a perfect. This would be Ken Patera times 10 as far as redemption stories go, and he'd be landing right smack dab in the national wrestling boom. He would be charismatic, he would be athletic, he would still be a decent brawler, and he wouldn't even have turned 40 yet.
Well, honestly, you do make some good cases, but telling the truth on it, you've got 1998, thick of the wrestling boom. You've got Kerry Von Erich looking like Kerry Von Erich and having his history for it, and the most natural place after a time in jail that led to these things and falling into it. He'd basically be Van Hammer in the flock for '98. So, and that's not a bad thing because he's a better version of Van Hammer. So,
I would like to think that just based on who he is, he might get a different look. I would imagine it would be a case where superstar Steve Austin would vouch for him, and maybe Paul Heyman would take him on as a reclamation project. I mean, Heyman made Tommy Rich interesting.
Yeah. But that's also the case where if you use Tommy Rich as the example on it, there'd also be the case where, in all likeliness, he'd basically be Kerry Von Erich from Denton, Italy.
Well, nobody's perfect, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Kerry's
don't put him in a feud with Doug Gilbert.
What's that?
I said, just don't put him in a feud with Doug Gilbert.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
The self-destruction of the Von Erich family is one of the tragic stories in history, but that's another show.
Yeah. But
what we have here is one of the more comedic stories in wrestling history.
Yes.
Folks, we're stalling so that you can all log into the WWE Network. We hope that you're at the Hidden Gems. We're looking at a picture of Vern Gagne and his dog in the middle of a park.
Yeah.
Gagne looking like, he's about to leave in 30 minutes for his game of canasta.
Yes. And it actually does work with Vern Gagne because I believe Vern Gagne may be training his dog to wrestle on this one. And since it's Vern Gagne, he'd push it to the main event. So
Hey. He only ever gave Craig the television title.
Well, he did make it clear he badly wanted him to be a main eventer, so that was really a big problem.
Overvalues his family, film at 11.
Yeah, but that was also basically a problem that happened with the AWA falling so well because Vern Gagne was a very good wrestler and had a lot of very good wrestlers at the top of this company, but then he found out that all of them got old, and suddenly 20 years later it didn't work.
Yeah.
Looking in any directions, WWE.
But at least with the WWE at this point, they're being treated as sort of a side attraction outside of any storyline.
Yeah, it's basically similar to the New Japan dads in a way for it, except I don't think that you're going to have Triple H saying, "Let's get ready to eat bread."
Although, anyway, plus the fact that 40 is the new 30, the main roster has a lot more longevity than they used to, which is the good news.
Yeah.
But back to the AWA, the old guys couldn't cut it anymore, So he was looking around for somebody, anybody he could put the title on. He tried to put the title on Rick Martel. It didn't quite work. He tried to put it on Stan Hansen. Stan Hansen went to Japan and didn't even bother to return his phone calls.
Yeah, and probably the worst part of this was when he tried to put the title on Kurt Hennig, thinking that, wait a minute, he's the son of Larry Hennig, he's got to be loyal to us. And then WWE took him too, so.
Right. He tried to build around a tag division with the Road Warriors. The NWA took him.
Yep.
He couldn't win.
Mm-hmm.
And, you could say what you want about how the World Wrestling Federation changed the game with their deal on the USA Network, and there is something to that. But the biggest issue is that Vern valued technical skill over charisma when they should be, when they should be equal parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that led to the worst part of it, where the biggest one is he had Hulk Hogan. The fans wanted him to be the AWA champion, and he said, nope, you're not good enough. We're keeping the belt on Bockwinkel.
And he didn't take a hint, because there were times when he would run dusty finishes, and the crowd would almost riot when the title was brought back.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Listen to your audience.
Yep. And that really does it, because even if it was just national TV deals, on paper, one of the biggest what-ifs would have been if the AWA were able to survive until the 90s, because not only would you have the rise of national wrestling, but you'd have AWA still on ESPN after it became ESPN.
Right, exactly. And, that was part of the problem with World Class. They were on ESPN. I remember watching World Class as a kid, but they were a territory, not really a national promotion, and that meant their stars got sucked up left and right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that also leads to the same what if the AWA played ball in that Super Clash, because if you think about it, they had one of the biggest stars outside the AWA and WWF and NWA in Sergeant Slaughter during the thick of the G.I. Joe era. They'd be getting Kerry Von Erich and Jerry Lawler, the two best guys who were loyal to their territory. That's a good nucleus you could have built a promotion around.
Exactly. And this just shows how much you need to learn from mistakes. Mm-hmm. We saw with the AWA, they couldn't really adjust to the new times. The NWA, WCW also had this problem where they couldn't sense when it was over. And now with the WWE, they're lucky they're in a position where they're too big to fail.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the big thing on it, because right now it is a point where if you don't give the ball to the new generation eventually, you're going to not have a good chance for it.
Anyway.
Okay.
Let's talk about how sad wrestling has become. Support your local independent promotion to make up for it. Let's talk about when things were hilarious. John, you got the feed kicked up?
No, well, I don't have the network, but
yeah, I've got the feed prepped for Watch Now. So I was just going to say when to start it for all these ones for you and for anybody listening. So.
Oh, John, you poor deprived soul! You have no idea what you're missing.
Only $9.99.
All right. I hear the buzzer going off. We have movie sign. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now. And we have the Americans wrestling thing, and we have scantily clad women pretending to be cheerleaders.
Okay, hang on. I got an ad before mine, so I'll just be a little bit behind.
Hold up, I'll speed it back then. So say when.
All right, moving it back. No. I said back, not forward.
Yeah, this is the plus of these ones where it's if you don't notice why the WWE Network is so good, when you get an ad like this, it's a surprise almost. And really, we can't say enough about this stuff. So $10 a month, first month free, and you get all this great stuff for it.
All right, now I'm queued up at the beginning, ready to hit start when you are. Give me a countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
Go. America!
Mm-hmm.
We're right out the gate with a shot of the American flag, everybody.
Yeah. And we hit. And again, we go back to random skanks pretending to be cheerleaders. It was 1990, so it was okay to say skanks then.
I think they got Guns N' Roses to perform on this one.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this would probably be JT Southern and the other random people for it. So.
And there actually is a theme to these women because the Beverly Hills Knockouts, a quasi-boxing group, was doing stuff with them.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Vern.
And we have
Vern Gagne, proud.
Is it better or worse than the Wrestle Rock Rumble?
Worse.
Oh, the Wrestle Rock Rumble was actually unintentional comedy gold.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Stuff a legend.
Yeah, but this is almost as bad because at least then it was unintentionally funny in a different way. You knew they were in on the joke.
Wait, okay. Just want to point out, Vern just threatened to come out of retirement again.
Yeah, but that's Vern Gagne in the Vern Gagne experience. He'll always threaten to come out of retirement for something.
Yep. And now we have two guys. One of them is Greg Gagne, Vern's son. You can see the resemblance on the right.
Mm-hmm.
On the left, we have some generic 80s schmuck.
Yeah.
And as you can see, they have been locked away in an undisclosed location and not given food or water until they promote the show.
Yes. Well, it also works on this one because the AWA was able to find a generic 80s kids show host just like any other thing would. Because seriously, short, blondish hair, random, generic guy on this one was what every 80s TV show had as a host at that time period.
Oh, I know. It was something else.
Yeah.
And our first match is going to feature Tommy Jammer. And right away, we go to the cheese.
Yeah.
Instead of walking down the aisle, he is walking down a green screen with two clips of fans on either side. And it's the same clip.
Yeah.
It's the same clip on both sides, everybody. Vern Gagne is so cheap, he thought we wouldn't notice.
Yeah. Well, they probably only could afford to get a few people randomly cheering, so.
And none of them are in the arena either. You can see from this shot right now, it's just in a studio. There's no audience.
Yes. But of course they cut to random stock footage of people cheering, so.
And now they're bragging about having the latest in technology, slow-mo replay. I believe the NFL have been using replay since, what, the 60s?
Yeah. And I believe that was Vern Gagne's wrestling style, so.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the accepted term is methodical.
Yeah.
Punch the button! Punch the button!
Mm-hmm.
And here's our first replay. And listen, don't just watch. Listen. They included the sound effect.
Yeah, and it's also a problem in slow motion because if you see it slow motion on it, you begin to see it almost seems faker. There's a reason most wrestling promotions don't use slow motion replays.
Right, and you'll notice the only time that the WWE goes into whoa.
There are no timeouts in wrestling.
But he was given one. He was given a timeout. How does this happen? Who is this referee? I'm reporting him to the union.
Is that Eric Bischoff? I'm not sure.
No, that's not Eric Bischoff. The toupee isn't strong enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the Eric Bischoff in the 80s had a hairstyle that looked like it was ripped off of a live skunk.
And it goes right to another random stock footage, and we get back to the action. And this is actually weird on it, where there was that story of how you'd write a wrestling match a couple years ago when Lucha Underground was going that was similar to an actual movie, and this is proof of the problems with that.
Oh, by the way, the match is already over.
Yeah. Which is honestly surprising on it because Burton is a perfectly normal 80s jobber, and it's almost surprising Tommy Jammer didn't make it to a national promotion. He just seems like someone who they try and bring in.
And now, a little promo. These are two of the three captains. On the left, we have Baron von Raschke, everybody's favorite Nazi.
Yeah.
That's not a joke, by the way. That was actually his gimmick, and he never really disavowed it.
Yeah.
And on the right, we have Sergeant Slaughter, who looks to have eaten General Adnan.
Yes. And this is also the case where it's also weird on this one, where they actually have to notice why you have Sergeant Slaughter, the guy who is the face of America and the great G.I. Joe come to life, and he's working with Colonel De Beers, the South African colonel who refuses to fight black people.
Yeah, and by the way, that's not just a random association. For those of you who are much younger than we are, from the 1950s to about 1993 or so, South Africa had a system of government called apartheid, which was basically the white people ruled everything, even though they only made up about 10% of the population, and they were pretty blatant about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the AWA actually turned apartheid into a gimmick, which should say that this is not the wrestling you'd expect.
Things were a lot different back then.
Yeah, it was the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate you, green screen. I hate you.
Yep.
Yeah,
here you have the destruction crew.
They're showing the destruction crew carrying sledgehammers. That's fine, and they are trying to take down a hotel in the background. They smash the green screen a few times, and then the hotel just crumbles behind them in a controlled demolition.
Yeah.
It looks so fake.
Yes. A shame, because this is one of the more credible acts on the thing, because they were one of those acts that was stolen by NWA while they were in AWA, is the Minnesota Wrecking Crew 2, and eventually became the Beverly Brothers. So
yeah, which is weird, because I thought they'd have been a lot better than that.
Yeah.
Enos and Bloom, both 6'4", combined weight of the even 500 pounds, currently being let down what passes for now by luscious Johnny V.
And you can tell they're actually doing something. It's a red green screen instead of the other one while in front of the fake fans.
Yeah, I can't even begin to describe how cheap and fake this looks.
Yeah.
And yes, we do have a sighting of somebody you might know. The person in the, oh, wait a minute, they both have wacky tights. Okay, the guy with the blonde mullet is Jerry Lynn. Yeah, that Jerry Lynn, the one from TNA and ECW.
Yeah. And that actually was interesting for this one. So I thought Ricky Rice was someone that they were pushing in AWA before this. So having him as a jobber was also kind of weird there.
Well,
and
you'll see as this match goes on.
By all the stock footage people who hate it as well.
Yeah, I'm very interesting about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start with, that is Mike Enos starting for the Destruction Crew. That's Ricky Rice starting for the opponents.
Yeah. And Enos is also a part of wrestling history on it, because he was in the ring when Scott Hall interfered on WCW in that fateful match. So,
yes, he was one of the two nobodies in the ring when some guy from Miami cleared the ring and said that he was ready to start a war with WCW, and what a war it was.
Mm-hmm.
Some very nice shoulder taps. Well, I really like Ricky Rice's selling. He is going all out to make Enos look like a powerhouse here.
Yeah, it's almost surprising that he didn't get some more credibility in actual wrestling past this one with his selling. So I think, wasn't he the guy who faked a match before in boxing when he left wrestling?
I think that might have been his partner Derek Dukes who did that. And in fact, he threw the match against Mark Gastineau, the former NFL defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
You know how weird it is to see Jerry Lynn without facial hair?
Yeah. Well, it also almost makes it seem almost appropriate on it, where he actually feels like the lightweight heavyweight he could have been, and you could see that he could have been good at that time period. And if you wonder how young it is, it's even before his great matches with the Lightning Kid that put him and Sean Waltman on the map. So
the Global Wrestling Federation wasn't until late 90, early 91. So this is very early in Jerry Lynn's career.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame. I was hoping for more mock material, but this is actually an okay match.
Yeah. Well, they're all very solid wrestlers, so this is one of those where you actually might want to watch it anyway. It's just poorly videotaped, but it's actually pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I could if they
and you can see
Rice
Rice has some decent fundamentals. We all know about Jerry Lynn, and Wayne Enos and Mike Enos and Wayne Bloom were a very, very good team. They were basically the linchpin of the AWA tag scene at this time, thin as that was, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, if they actually videotaped it well, this would have been a very good match.
And, oh, wow! Bloom just tried a stinger splash into the corner, and as this slow-mo replay reveals, he crashes shoulder first into the top pad. And he doesn't protect himself at all. He goes full bore into that turnbuckle. That is dedication to your craft right there.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they let him do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was 1990, so probably Vern thought that if you get injured, we can keep you. So
who knows? And there's the distraction. There's the shot off the apron, and Jerry Lynn is now in trouble.
Empty arena. If you looked at that hit to the ropes, where you could actually see the ladder that was in the other side of it. So you can see this is like the Plan 9 from outer space of pro wrestling.
Yeah, Vern Gagne did not understand, well, anything, really. So.
Mm-hmm.
Going for a double team here. You'll notice, by the way, Jerry Lynn has an unusual way of running the ropes. And this is something that, as a wrestler, I kind of, I was taught about, and the more I watch, the more I pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Lynn, when he runs the ropes, will always kind of hit the ropes sideways, as opposed to everyone else who likes to hit the ropes back first.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is I was told by my trainer that was a very dangerous thing to do. And the reason is you can't always trust the ropes. You don't know about their structural integrity. And there's always the very rare but very real chance that they could break.
Yeah. And it also does help on this one where, at least if you're looking at the ropes, it's very clear that they're actually made of rope, because a lot of the more serious ones, there's cable in there, and if it's cable, then you'd be basically killing your kidneys there.
Well, it's going to hurt one way or another if you go in too hard to the ropes anyway. But what I mean by structural integrity is that if you are hitting the ropes back first and the ropes give out or they break, you probably will have one arm on the top rope as you turn around, which means that you can feel it break, you can brace yourself, you can let your legs go out from underneath you, and leave yourself just sort of sitting there thinking, well, I just broke a ring rope. That's lovely. What can we do for the rest of this stinking match?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're going in sideways, the way Jerry Lynn was here, and the rope breaks, you don't really have a way to brace yourself, and you're going out of the ring in an unplanned and likely uncontrolled way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to, so that's why just about everybody, when they hit the ropes, now that I've told you this, you're going to see it all the time, will always hit the ropes back first with one arm on the top rope. It is for their own safety, really. And if you're wondering, well, these ropes are super strength, they go everywhere, how hard could it be to break them? Well, you never know when a rope is on its last legs. I have seen Cesaro in a match where the ropes gave out on him. I've seen Cassius Ohno in matches where the ropes gave out on him. And it's not just, people who are heavyweights. It can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, I mean, about a year or so ago, wasn't there a famous house show match they showed highlights of where Seth Rollins broke the top rope?
I don't know of that one, but we are also back to more hype of it for of Sergeant Lauders, and he still hyping Colonel De Beers.
But at least he has good reasoning for it, which is this is a two-man battle royal. The object is to throw your opponent out of the ring. That's something De Beers does all the time.
Yeah. And then he's facing up with Hard Rock Paul Diamond. And even then, it just seems like it'd make more sense if they reversed the two teams there.
Yeah, the Baron could easily have a mix of faces and heels, but Slaughter's team, you'd think, would all be faces.
Mm-hmm. Why does the South African guy care if he disgraces America?
We're about to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, now there's a twist. Colonel outranks Sergeant.
Yes.
And by the way, the orange, white, and purple design behind him, that is kind of what the South African flag looked like under the apartheid government system.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, Colonel and Sarge don't get along.
Yes.
I actually like how they're trying to make it look like they're in the same room by having them point off camera at each other.
Yes. So you have to understand that one of them's in a room that has an American flag and the other has an apartheid flag, so they can't be in the same room. That's just not possible.
Yeah, and on top of that, everybody's been entering the different colored rampways.
Yes.
So now we're going to some fake boxing featuring women.
Yes.
You do not know who any of these people are. I don't know who these people are. You don't care who any of these people are if you're a viewer. You're just watching a couple of women wearing something that passes for an outfit, and having a bunch of boxing gloves, and already we have a cheap shot.
Yes. Yes. This was the level of it. WWF had the Fabulous Moolah era for it. Glow was going on in this one, and so AWA just found Foxy Boxing.
Yeah, they just grabbed whoever they could.
Yeah. Which was a shame because at the time AWA did have a lot of good stars on it, like Sherry Martel and Medusa both got their start in the AWA. So
yeah, and you would think that at the very least he would have called up McLean and asked to borrow Luna Vachon or Tina Ferrari, but
yeah,
I guess that would have required money.
Yeah, and at the very least,
if there's anybody who can out Carney Vern Gagne, it's McLean. So
yeah. Plus, really, it doesn't matter. Once you just look at it as doesn't matter for anything. All it is fake wrestling and boobies. That's all you really care about.
By the way, I want to pay some attention to the camera. Here's how bad the action is. The camera has changed focus about 500 times over the course of that 3-minute round. It's almost like 2017 Kevin Dunn is at the controls.
Yes. I don't know if it's just him. I mean, there is a brunette in the ring, so.
And now they're trying to explain the rules, which is hilarious, as you're going to find out soon enough, because.
Yes.
All right, so one person has finally gone down for the count. And it's being helped up by her manager, which I'm pretty sure is a violation of a couple of boxing rules. And now she throws her gloves off and starts kneeing her opponent in the back, which I'm sure is a violation of several hundred more boxing rules.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, isn't this supposed to be a boxing match? What happened to the boxing?
I think it's just basically fallen into it's two women in very skimpy white t-shirts battling with each other. It's just, yeah, TNA was not just invented by Vince Russo, people.
Look, I've seen the Roddy Piper Mr. T boxing match. It made more sense than this.
Well, I don't know on it. The Mr. T Roddy Piper match had a storyline. It had build, and WWF could get the good cocaine for their people as opposed to these ones. So
they're whipping each other across the ring right now. Supposedly, this is boxing, and we have the referee distracted by the manager because you can't have.
If it's a mix between wrestling and boxing, we could be seeing an early beginning of women's mixed martial arts here. It's a very positive thing.
Do not even blaspheme.
You could absolutely buy these people as the start of Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, or Sonya Deville. So,
sir, I will wash your mouth out with soap for reclaiming that. And now the manager is choking one of the boxers with her towel because why the hell not?
Mhm.
And now another manager is in the ring. And
Yep.
now the first manager has ripped off her shirt to reveal she's basically in a stripper outfit and is slamming one of the boxers. And
Mhm. Yes. Yes, this is why you have to realize, even if you're not
I'll
a
ask
fan
you,
of
Green.
Charlotte,
I've seen some of your
the
whacked out
women's
wrestling memorial stuff.
evolution
Did you find a time machine and go back and book this match?
I don't think so on it, because this is just, it's just not even a wrestling match. You wonder, this is why the women's evolution works, people. This is just hilariously bad.
It's mind-boggling. And it ends with both women falling down off of a punch and then one of them getting up and being declared the winner and let us never speak of this again.
Yes. And apparently the brunette gets the win because who the hell knows?
John, in case you're wondering how we're going to explain that last match, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
And naturally it goes back as the random 80s TV show host shows up, and it looks like these are the first boobies he's ever seen in real life.
What I want to know is where is this bunker where they're hiding the two of them?
More than likely...
They're stuck in the basement of Robbinsdale High School, aren't they?
More than likely, I'd say.
And here's the scores for the Team Challenge series that we just made up. Team Larry's in the lead, Team Baron is second, Team Sarge is third, which is too bad for me because I'm on Team Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just waiting for Team Tyler's van to make the win, so.
Here we have Paul Diamond. Paul Diamond, probably one of the better AWA mid-carders in the 80s.
Yeah.
Famous for being a part of Bad Company with Pat Tanaka.
Mm-hmm.
Inexplicably, when Tanaka got called up in the WWF, they left Paul Diamond behind.
Yeah.
So rather than call up Bad Company, they had the Orient Express. And when Diamond finally did join the WWF, they just put him under a mask and pretended he was a part of the Orient Express, one of Mr. Fuji's Japanese proteges, because, it's not like Vince has any idea where Japan is on a globe.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
But at the same time, this one's one where he's actually trying to be a babyface, and he's actually good at it. You know he's a babyface in AWA because he says he likes rock music.
As he gives the claw sign of the Baron.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, Paul Diamond not a bad wrestler. And here he comes out of the blue aisle, which is clearly not green screen.
The excitement of all the people on the fake wrestling. So.
Yep. And here it is, Colonel
Red aisle, you have the same people excited for him,
doing the exact same things, even.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they were, pre-taped or something. Okay, They just mentioned this is on in sports bars all around the world. Which means, by the way, that what we're seeing is a tape that was done earlier and is being shown in sports bars, which has live cut-ins to these sports bars that are watching live something that is pre-taped and has them on it.
Yes. Honestly, this would be a good thing because I could perfectly buy someone hitting the button at Buffalo Wild Wings and saying, "No, we don't want any of these people."
No, it's not just that, but somehow these people are watching themselves live, watching a pre-tape.
Yes.
Like, this just leaves one question: when will then be now?
I'm not sure.
Oh, you missed the Spaceballs reference. Too bad.
Soon.
Well, it's you have to miss the Spaceballs reference because I think Colonel De Beers didn't want to wrestle people who had the Schwartz.
Entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Diamond with an early head scissors. De Beers kind of showing his age here, but he's holding on okay so far.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it's still one where you could buy that WWF or WCW could have given some De Beers a chance, if not for his gimmick becoming incredibly dated in the 1990s due to socio-political activism marching on and saving South Africa.
Right, yeah. The South African heel became passé around the time the Soviet heel did.
Yes.
So,
McMahon wouldn't realize this for a few years, though.
well, that's true. He did give us the Truth Commission about 5 years after South Africa integrated. So,
Right.
Yeah.
all right. A little something I learned in wrestling school. What we're watching right now, this sequence of moves, is generally called the international.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lockup into the headlock, off the ropes, the shoulder block, continue, duck down, either a leapfrog or a side pass, and then some big move by the babyface.
And then you see in the slow motion one, that's actually a problem because when it was in fast one, Paul Diamond's drop kick looked very good, but when they went into slow motion, you could see how terribly done it was.
Yeah, you can see he missed by a lot. But that sequence, the whole headlock, shoulder tackle, crisscross thing, that is something that people learn no matter what training school they're in, and it's one of the few things really that you could use as sort of an icebreaker in a match. That's why it's called the international. In fact, I can tell you that one of the people I have trained with and been trained by spent time in Chikara, and when he worked with Japanese wrestlers, literally the only word they knew of English was international, and that's pretty much all they needed to know because it allowed them to start the match.
Mm-hmm.
Now De Beer's going back up for a second diving headbutt,
Mm-hmm.
and this one doesn't quite hit the mark.
Yeah.
Paul Diamond still had a few good years left in him at this point. Not only was he in the Orient Express, but after Tanaka retired, Vince gave him another chance by putting him under the mask and making him Max Moon. Well,
Yeah.
I never said he had a good chance. I just said he had a chance.
Yeah. But even then, it also had one where Paul Diamond was also a pretty good trainer and was part of Shawn Michaels Academy's rest team as well. So he also had that going for him.
He had a hand in training people like Daniel Bryan, Paul London, and Brian Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see on the slow motion replay, Diamond's hands stop about a foot before the turnbuckle, and De Beer sends himself into it. Have you ever seen that clip of Scott Steiner allegedly slamming Christian's head into the steel steps?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't quite that bad, but it was pretty clear in the replay.
Yeah, and you're seeing why slow motion replay does not work in matches or otherwise, because if this match would be a pretty good match if they didn't show a spotlight on everything they did wrong in it, like the slow motion replay.
Right. Part of what makes wrestling work is that it's in real time, and the gap is so thin if there's one at all.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, this is why in WWE, for example, the only time they ever go to slow-mo is when somebody is flying through the air, because that's the only time it actually looks more impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also why you see that wrestlers who do things pretty fast are always at an advantage on it. And it's one of the weakness of guys like Carlito or Rob Van Dam, who seemed fast-paced, but you could see they were going relatively slow in the ring.
Well, that's something, if you ask any wrestler, they'll say that if you go too fast, that's when you make mistakes. So
yeah,
I will not knock anybody for only looking fast instead of being fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a perfectly credible thing as well. So
now that's how you slam someone's head in the turnbuckle right there.
Yeah.
No gap in that one between De Beers and Diamond. That was well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be a battle royal if we didn't have a skin the cat spot. But this one has a nice twist as De Beers starts biting Diamond's hand,
Mm-hmm.
and Diamond has to, Diamond can't skin back in. He has to crawl under the bottom rope. That is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the things we're talking about in this match, John, I'm sure you'll agree, they wouldn't be out of place if they were tried today.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because outside of it, this is a good big versus little match in many ways, because De Beers is relatively large and Diamond could play as a light heavyweight. So,
and a very nice finish. This is one of those, again, something that has withstood the test of time. De Beers goes for a pile driver a little too close to the ropes, which means that when he's backdropped, he goes over and out, and that's how the match ends.
Mm-hmm.
A time-tested finish, to be honest with you. Nothing wrong with that. This was perfectly acceptable wrestling, which is too bad because I wanted to mock it more.
Yeah. Yeah, again, if you take away the slow motion ones, this would be a very good match. So
You'll notice, by the way, Vern Gagne is showing off his brand new Team Challenge, showing off his brand new slow-mo technology. It just, really what this is showing more than anything else is how out of date Vern Gagne is.
yeah. Yeah, and it's just the same thing where, again, you can't use the same things you use in actual ones. And you have Sergeant Slaughter in this match, as seen on it, because they can't even get the spelling, out of the Green's corner with the fans cheering him.
Now, a couple of notes here. First off, in one of the throws to the undisclosed location in Robbinsdale, Greg Gagne talked about having gone to Camp Slaughter. That's not just throwing something out there. Very few people know this, even within AWA fandom. But one of the ideas to sort of give Greg Gagne more credibility was for him to spend time in Sergeant Slaughter's boot camp and get toughened up that way with survivalist instincts.
Mm-hmm.
This led to something called Gagne's Raiders, which was, a silly idea, but not too silly by wrestling standards.
Yeah. Okay, then, just making sure on this. Was the Terminator someone we should recognize as well here, or would you know about that one?
We actually had a discussion on this when Scott Keith reviewed it on the blog of Doom, and I want to thank Scott for doing that and bringing some of this to my attention. I've stolen some of his lines. He was under the impression that the Terminator is one of the extra Laurinaitis brothers who never amounted to anything, but some of the readers disputed that. So I cannot say for certain if the Terminator is anybody that you would know.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if this was Hugh Morris in an early era, or if Hugh Morris was too young for that spot. So,
well, the character Hugh Morris was called Crash the Terminator. This is just the Terminator. He clearly looks like he's half of some Road Warrior ripoff tag team. So,
yeah, but still kind of weird on this one because, again, a wrestler who emulates the Terminator always seems like that thing where WWE loves guys with a gimmick where they're trying to be the Terminator, but they never actually run with a guy who's trying to be the Terminator.
Now, hang on a sec. Let's be fair. My chronology is all messed up, but this match is in 1988, 1989. Did the Terminator happen yet?
Yeah, it came out in 1984.
Oh, okay.
Or the first one. Terminator 2 was 1991. So.
That's my confusion. There was such a huge gap between original and sequel that I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I will say, by the way, our friend the Terminator has all of the stereotypical 80s wrestling badass tropes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rocket mullet? Check. Faux hawk? Check. Random design on the side of the hair? Check. Face paint? Check.
Yeah. Yep, this guy is so random an 80s gimmick. You'd think he was one of AWA's action figures.
Sarge working a ground headlock here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually found a clip of that on WWE's YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And they're back on their feet where I am.
Mm-hmm.
You found this Slaughter match on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's Sergeant Slaughter and the Terminator clash in rare WWE Hidden Gem from 1989.
Yep, this would be it then. So,
yeah.
This is just basically a kind of a showcase match for Slaughter. Oh no! Slaughter just did a cross body block. That could be lethal.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, we're seeing the replay, but I'm not too sure it's slow motion or not.
In the replay, again, same point. It looked good in high speed, but in slow mo, you could see he didn't get all of it. So,
well, he got good air on it. The thing is, it wasn't caught well. I think is more like it.
Yeah, he got like 3 feet of air on that time.
And now they're doing the best thing they could, which is just yelling at each other in lieu of actual wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, and they are trying to prep the people are saying USA, USA, and you can see all the people in the stock footage saying USA, USA.
Yeah, I was about to ask. It's pretty clear they're just in an empty studio. Who is Slaughter talking to?
I think that Slaughter probably hears voices. The voices of a bunch of ghosts that chant USA for him all the time.
Is that why he snapped and joined the Iraqi army?
Mm-hmm.
Terminator now halfway out the ropes, kind of looking for a little breather.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we need to discuss here that Slaughter, this is before the WWF Gulf War run, and it's just amazing how much shape he needed to get himself into. Slaughter does not look like he is at his best right here.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look like he did in the early 80s or late 70s. He doesn't even look like he did in 1991. He doesn't really have... he looks like he's kind of letting himself go. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and that is a positive that's seen a lot with people who are controversial champions like Sergeant Slaughter in 1990 or Jinder Mahal last year, where you can see it, at the very least they put work into trying to look the part, which is always a good plus there.
Yeah, and I'll give Slaughter all the credit. You know, in that year between this match and when he jumped to the WWF, he really got himself in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this ring looks like it's even bigger than a standard WWF ring. I wonder how far across it is.
I don't know on it because it's also how they're filming it as well. So.
Yeah, that might be part of it. Holy cow, Sergeant Slaughter just did a drop kick.
Yeah.
That is the most inexplicable drop kick since Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, and that's also weird on this one because you can see that Sergeant Slaughter was agile, but then when he went back to WWF, he just lost it all and made his finisher the noogie.
Well, I think part of that is that he was a heel in the WWF, so he toned it down so he didn't do anything exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, look right here. He's got the man down. He's going up the ropes. This is Sergeant Slaughter, not at his athletic best. He's doing a diving clothesline off the ropes. That is impressive.
Yeah.
And he had pretty good form on it, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the thing on it where Slaughter was good. He was good during his time, and it's just weird that his run in WWF made people forget how good Slaughter was.
Yeah. And, we are going to a replay while he has the Cobra Clutch on. That is some serious cojones on the part of the replay official there that he won't miss the submission.
Mm-hmm.
Miraculously, he's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sergeant Slaughter adds a little extra talk to his friend Mr. Terminator here.
Mm-hmm. And you can see the video person filming it on this one. Not sure if that was a mistake or not.
For the record, when Bischoff says that match went a little longer, it was only about 6 or 7 minutes. It wasn't exactly a marathon.
Yeah. And that's really the problem with these ones because most of them are very short matches to try and hype this, but it doesn't really click.
Yeah. Also, Sergeant Slaughter said he was in the best shape of his life. To be fair, he's in the most spiritual shape of his life right now.
Yep.
Round is a shape.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how many people recognize in the montage for next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll call them out as I see them.
Mm-hmm.
As they sign off to show highlights of. Let's see who we got. Looks like they're showing Ox Baker. We got looks like Ivan Cola. We got the Trooper, Del Wilkes, pre-Patriot. We got the Texas Hangman. We got Coquina Maximus, the future Yokozuna. I mean, you can see they kind of had people at this time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something where if they had the money, they could have absolutely salvaged themselves. So it's not like they were just failing there.
Right. So that was the pilot episode of the AWA Team Challenge series. Now, they would show a lot of Team Challenge footage on ESPN all the way through to early 1991 in the dying throes of the company. Basically, ESPN at the time didn't have as many live sports packages as they do now, so they needed something for syndication. And pro wrestling, be it World Class, AWA, Global Wrestling Federation, the USWA, they've always found something.
Yeah, and ESPN also was famous for, they picked AWA in large part because it was the third best promotion and the best promotion available that didn't have a deal, because WWF had their deals with all around the country and NWA had their deal with TBS, so AWA was the best they could do. And so they had someone in the offices basically going and saying, we have all these people. We have Baron von Raschke, we have the High Flyers, Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell. We have Sergeant Slaughter. And someone at ESPN said, we got Slaughter? And everyone looked at him and said, my kids like it.
Yeah, it was something. Anyway, so as time went on, the standings got more and more convoluted. You saw that the match between two different teams was a battle royal. A lot of the matches in the Team Challenge series were irregular. There were very few that were standard one-on-one matches for points. The standings were whatever the heck Vern Gagne thought they were that week. And at the end of the day, Larry Zbyszko was declared the winner, and the only person who cared was Bill Apter.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even so much that Larry Zbyszko was declared the winner as the Aftermags basically hinted when the kind of death knell of it, where Sergeant Slaughter and Larry Zbyszko both signed with WWF and WCW respectively. Bill Apter said, oh yeah, Zbyszko totally took the $1 million that the Team Challenge Series winner won and ran off to WCW with it. So it's not that Zbyszko won the thing as much as Apter said, oh yeah, this is how it makes sense in kayfabe.
Right, that's one of the things you're going to learn, by the way. If you were a kid at the time that SK and I were, meaning the late '80s, early '90s, shut up and get off our lawn. You would have
my lawn too.
Yeah, you would have seen things like Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the other kayfabe, strictly kayfabe publications that collectively were called the Aftermags, because Bill Apter basically published the same magazine under 6 or 7 different titles.
Mm-hmm.
And, he would come up with fake top 10 standings. He would come up with quotes of, from people to try and build up their matches. He would pretend to interview them for stories. Nobody really acknowledged them within the wrestling business because it was all just sort of it was almost like fan fiction at the time.
Yeah. And honestly, it also had the problems that due to the fact that there was such a break on this one, you'd have storylines that the Aftermags were hyping up as a big deal then that were basically over and done with by the time the magazine got on the shelves. So
yeah, the lead time kind of killed that as far as excitement. So everyone who has Hidden Gems in the WWE Network, you can tell that this is something. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure whether it's an acid trip or a cocaine binge, but it's something. SK, you're the expert on drug-induced hallucinations. What would you describe that as?
I would probably assume, seeing as the fact that this was 1980, it could have been cocaine, but it's clear that the AWA couldn't afford cocaine at the time, and it wasn't.
Vern's old school.
Yeah, I'd assume that this would probably be good old-fashioned. So they tried drinking the leftover beer the Crusher had after his things, and found out it had fermented into whiskey.
That's possible, but I got a better idea. I mean, we're talking about a very old person in Vern Gagne looking for something that would get him into an altered state. Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to bet this whole show was written on laudanum.
Yeah, that would probably be viable on it, but it still was that example of people who were so out of touch thinking this was what wrestling in 1989 should look like. And that really was the death knell for the AWA as well. It had a roster full of people who just had no clue what wrestling was supposed to be at the end of the 1980s and then going into the 1990s. And it's almost surprising that they had Eric Bischoff on the roster, who basically revolutionized wrestling in the 1990s to make it even more insane to think of there.
Yeah, it was just weird all around.
Come a long way from that truck in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So there you go, folks. Now, if you want sort of a palate cleanser after that, might I recommend the House Party Halloween special?
Yes.
Not just because it is hilarious and because it is right up Whacked Out Wrestling's alley, but I will say this: through my association with Nova Pro and through being able to do crew work backstage and all that, I've actually met a few of the people in this video, and it's kind of surreal to see them being shown in front of the world.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that I am internet friends, TM, with The Scribe, played by Brad Stutz, longtime CWF Mid-Atlantic personality. That if you look in the crowd, you will see some Southern wrestling people such as Nick Iggy and Terry Awful, collectively known as the Carnies, as well as Kane Justice. These are people I've had a chance to see live and in person with Nova Pro. And they also brought back Ricky Roberts, the fake Elias from that one Raw, but he's played by John Schuyler, another Southeastern independent stalwart that I have had the pleasure of seeing live as part of working through Nova Pro.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a little background as to why it means something to me. It doesn't have to mean anything to you other than it is.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. John, did you ever get to see them in TNA?
Yeah. I saw the final deletion. I saw the leader decay.
All right, so you kind of have a taste for what they're about, but after that, they really, really, really went off the deep end. If you get a chance, look up the All Hardy episode of Impact that aired December of, I believe, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
It is amazing.
Yes. And that's really the plus on it, where it also works well on a show like this, because if the Team Challenge series was an insanity done wrong, the House Hardy shows are insanity done right.
Yep.
And
for those who only ever got to see Woken Matt Hardy and see Bray Wyatt invade the Hardy compound, you have a taste of what you're getting into, but there is so much more, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Because, here's what you need to know. I'll explain it for those who have only ever seen the WWE version. First off, what you saw, like I said, is just a taste of it. Matt Hardy in 2016 in TNA snapped. Now, normally when people snap, they become violent and maniacal and they get crazy eyes. Matt snapped in a completely different way, to the point that he basically turned into a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Complete with the bizarre Sweeney Todd hair, the affected accent, the overblown emphasis on syllables. You caught all of this if you saw Woken Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this was supposed to be a sign that Matt Hardy no longer had any touch with reality. Mm-hmm. He later basically caused Jeff to go into a similar meltdown, where Jeff Hardy basically became his mute sidekick, Brother Nero.
Yes.
Bonus mention, Nero is Jeff Hardy's actual middle name. That's where they got it from.
Mm-hmm. And he's saying it so much that I just had to add it as an extra, so.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
The other parts of Matt Hardy's real-life wife, Rebecca, who was Rebby Sky on the Indies, is Queen Rebecca here. His two sons are King Maxwell and Lord Wolfgang. And I hate to say it, but he actually named his sons Maxwell and Wolfgang.
Mm-hmm.
His gardener, Senor Benjamin, is played by Rebby's father.
Mm-hmm.
Vanguard 1 is basically a drone that Jeremy Borash picked up at the store and decided it would be fun to include in the videos. No, I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
The Scribe, as I said, is Brad Stutz, somebody who works in the Carolinas and is a well-known personality. Mm-hmm. Oh, of course, for those of you who only have seen the WWE stuff, you haven't met the Scribe yet.
Yes.
Matt Hardy, in addition to having his own gardener and his own house, sometimes calls upon a personal secretary or scribe to record whenever he gets any ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing. He has the ability every once in a while to think he's seeing into the future, or he'll basically get this massive seizure and say that he has had a premonition.
Mm-hmm.
Is he imitating Tommy Wiseau? I can't really tell.
Honestly, I don't know, because that's always been the thing with the House Hardy stuff and the Broken Brilliance, where Matt Hardy was able to steer into the skid when everybody said, this is so bad it's good, and changed the terrain to make it, okay, we're going to go with this. By contrast with Tommy Wiseau, it was like, oh yeah, I totally meant it as a dark comedy, but no, you meant it as a drama film. So
yeah. Now, on the Hardy compound again, I don't believe you've met them. Matt Hardy has wonderful conversations with George Washington and Smokin' Joe Frazier. Don't get your hopes up, folks. That's the name of his pet giraffe and pet kangaroo.
Mm-hmm.
We also can't forget his dilapidated boat, Skarsgård.
Oh, yes. During the first fight on the Hardy compound between Matt and Jeff, before Matt finally wore Jeff down and turned him into Brother Nero, at one point, Matt and Jeff, in their basically a false count anywhere match at the Hardy compound, start using firecrackers as weapons against each other.
Mm-hmm.
When Jeff turns the tide on Matt and starts shooting the firecracker like a rifle,
Mm-hmm.
trust me on this one, you need to see it. Matt starts running and says, quick, to the dilapidated boat.
Mm-hmm.
Dilapidated is an actual important part of the name of the boat. I am not kidding.
Yes.
After the fight, he goes back to the boat and thanks the boat for saving his life and gives it a name of Skarsgård, as John pointed out.
Yes.
Now,
the whole of the Broken Brilliance tells people opioids are not a bad thing.
Let's not take that stance in public. Shut it there, Tommy. Oh, there's one more thing. If you saw the end of the Hardy-Wyatt feud, you know that the fight basically ended when Hardy was able to throw Wyatt into a lake on his property.
Mm-hmm.
Within the full-on crazy universe that you see here, that lake is known as the Lake of Reincarnation, and it turns you temporarily into a previous persona because wrestling.
Yes.
This is, for example, in the Delete or Decay that John mentioned, Abyss falls into the Lake of Reincarnation and reemerges as Joseph Park, attorney at law.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that actually makes the obvious fan fiction, the obvious headcanon there that Bray Wyatt turned into Husky Harris, but he still looked like Bray Wyatt, but Husky Harris wasn't exactly a bad guy per se, and that's why he was turned babyface because of it.
Right, and that also explains why Bray Wyatt was freed of Sister Abigail's influence.
Mm-hmm.
Because wrestling.
Yes.
The other thing you're going to need to know when you see this, by the way, is that one of the previous personas that Jeff Hardy had is one he never actually wrestled under, but it's one that he kind of recorded songs on the side under, called Itchweed. And I have to emphasize, because the character will, there are 3 E's in Itchweed.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Itchweed is also the name of the substance Jeff Hardy consumed before coming up with that character,
Mm-hmm.
if his actions are any indication.
Yes.
So that's kind of the catch-up of everything you need to know if you watch the House Hardy Halloween for the first time, or if something didn't make sense. Like I said, we fully recommend it. It's kind of late here, so we're not actually going to do a live watch this time, but we'll save it for a future episode.
Yeah. Okay. And with that one, it's a good time to end on this note. So this was your special extra episode to pay back for the problems of last night's episode. As always, I'm Thomas S.K. Green. With me, John Roche, and we thank Andrew McHale for being here tonight.
Thanks for
It's
coming
always
out.
a pleasure. You know you can count on me for anything. And stay tuned on the occasional Sundays on my YouTube channel. I'll be inviting SK. We'll be discussing our side project, the Afterlife Wrestling Federation.
Yep. Peace.
See ya!